So trauma impacts relationships across the lifespan, right? This is not just, okay, I have an insecure attachment as a baby. Now we know from adult attachment work and so forth that this is stuff you can work on. It's not like, all right, I have avoidant attachment as a little person because issues with my caregiver, and so I can never get out of that. But you do have to do significant work both in your therapy practice and in your personal relationships. Having safe and healthy attachment relationships where you can practice some of this stuff when you're ready. And oftentimes, a safe and healthy and secure attachment will look unsafe to somebody who has only known unhealthy relationships, right? So, when somebody sets a boundary with me, that feels really unpleasant because, well, nobody has ever set a boundary with me. Or I don't know, like I am used to sort of pushing through other people's boundaries and that being accepted. So the ability to both set and keep my boundaries where I end and you begin, and understand and accept those. Who am I? How do I regulate my stuff without expecting somebody else to be involved in that, right? All of that is really an important piece of attachment work, but it's absolutely related to this early childhood trauma stuff because this is where we learn my autonomy, my bubble, my safety in the world, moving about the world. So, attachment, right? In an ideal situation, this is what you would have. So, I'm seen. Others see my needs. My caregiver sees my needs, right? This can also be as an adult. In my romantic relationship, my partner sees my needs through behavior and responds appropriately, right? I believe the world is a safe place because I am able to move about the world and I am safe. When I have needs, someone will respond, right? And I'm able to self-soothe as well. I learned how to self-soothe by having a caregiver early on provide that soothing and comfort to me. And then there's a security in my home relationship or in my stable caregiver relationship that I can go out, I can explore the world, and I can still come back home. Right? That there's a safe place to land when I'm done exploring. So when there is you've left me and this is not acceptable and silent treatment, etc., when a child is trying to differentiate, right, which often happens with teenagers, this can be a significant breakage in attachment, right? Because then I don't believe that it's okay for me to be me and me to go out and explore the world. Similarly, if nobody cares if I come home or nobody cares if I don't call, right? Again, not safe in the world because nobody's actually worried what might be happening to me. So, number of different attachment styles. We're not going to go into a huge depth about this, but I do just kind of want to touch on this quickly. So we have secure attachment, obviously, right? This is, I feel safe, I feel secure, sort of the things we talked about with I'm able to be soothed and so forth. The insecure types, we have anxious, avoidant, and disorganized. They can change across the lifespan, but they also manifest differently in adult relationships than in childhood. So the way that I relate with my caregiver, if it's an anxious attachment or an avoidant attachment, it's not necessarily going to show up in exactly the same way with my partner, but it will affect how I respond to my partner. And a lot of healing work can be done through a safe partner relationship. Typically, you want to start with a therapist, and over time build to healthy relationships that you have in your life. So again, here's a little graphic about different attachment styles here. Secure attachment style means that the parent is connected and attuned to the child's emotions and needs. The child is able to empathize with others and set boundaries. And typically, or this is as an adult, they would typically have stable and meaningful relationships. An avoidant, and I actually didn't even touch on reactive, but that's oftentimes what we see with kids that have been trafficked. Avoidant, we see emotional unavailable parents or rejecting the needs of the child, right? Get away from me. Your needs and stuff are too much for me to handle. In this case, you'll see adults who may avoid close relationships. They may be rigid, intolerant of other people's feelings. Ambivalent attachment style. You would see inconsistent parenting, intrusive or harsh communication. This is also anxious. So this may be an anxious or insecure individual, clingy, controlling. They may have a difficult time connecting on a level where there are boundaries, right? And what's funny, and maybe not funny, but interesting, is that oftentimes you'll see avoidant and anxious attached folks partnering up as adults or as young adults. And then disorganized attachment, parents' behavior may be frightening or traumatizing. And then the adult may have a lack of trust, chaotic, explosive. And then reactive attachment disorder, which is actually a little bit different than just an attachment style. But this is, again, related to extreme abuse and potentially some of these other types of insecure attachment parenting behaviors, right? So you may have a mishmash of a bunch of them in addition to extreme abuse. The times that I have seen this, it was in young girls that I worked with in foster care who had been trafficked under the age of 10. And so they had been sex trafficked by primary caregivers. And this was related to they were very difficult to diagnose, very difficult to sort of figure out what was going on with them from the day to day. They had difficulty maintaining friendships, indiscriminate sexual behavior and acting out when they got a little older. So these are things that we want to look out for in terms of behaviors that we're seeing with clients. There's a lot of different trauma responses that we may see as a result of all of these early childhood experiences. We talked a little bit about PTSD and those responses, right? So mood swings, anger, irritability, intrusive thoughts. But there are also, and I think somebody mentioned this earlier, physical symptoms as well. So you can have upset stomach, GI issues, headaches. It can impact blood pressure. When there's a heightened level of cortisol, that absolutely impacts sleep. But it can impact all kinds of other things like liver function, kidney function. And then we have, some of the other issues with dissociation and panic attacks here.